Logo, National Park Service. Text, Yellow-billed loons in a changing Arctic, coping with contaminants.
Summer in Alaska is marked by the return of thousands of migrant breeding birds, among them, the magnificent yellow-billed loon, one of the 10 rarest breeding birds to the mainland U.S. The species is of international concern, with the global population estimated at up to 31,000 birds. Each year, about 3,000 to 4,000 yellow-billed loons will journey across the Pacific Ocean from Asia to Alaska's Arctic to feed, nest, and raise their young. Because of their aquatic lifestyle, loons are particularly vulnerable to environmental contaminants caused by industrial pollution and increased marine vessel traffic in Arctic waters. Exposure to harmful contaminants may have negative consequences for the successful reproduction of loons.
A loon in water.
Some contaminants occur naturally, while others are synthetic. These include byproducts of industrial activity, such as chemicals in pesticides, textiles, and flame retardants. Pollutants from industrial emissions are suspended in the air and carried through the polar jet stream for very long distances, and eventually settle on land and into Arctic water bodies. This accumulation of pollution in the atmosphere over the Arctic is known as Arctic haze. Mercury pollution is of particular concern. Elemental mercury is a byproduct of mining and fossil fuel combustion, but it is also released into the environment through a number of natural processes, like the thaw of permafrost. After mercury enters aquatic ecosystems, microbes that live in the sediment of the lakes convert it into its toxic form, methylmercury. Once in the environment, methylmercury increases in concentration as it progresses up the aquatic food web through a process called biomagnification. The microbes containing methylmercury are consumed by tiny invertebrates, which are then eaten by small fish that are in turn eaten by large fish. These larger fish are prey for the yellow-billed loons and other predators, including humans. The concentration of methylmercury continues to increase at each step in the food chain, magnifying the contaminant in high-level consumers. Because loons are top predators, they may end up with very high concentrations of contaminants in their bodies. The buildup of methylmercury does not end there. It continues to accumulate in loons over the 20-year lifespan because they cannot remove contaminants like mercury from their bodies faster than they ingest them. Older loons, who are often more successful at raising young, tend to have the highest concentrations of contaminants because of their age. While the adults remain relatively unaffected by exposure to methylmercury, the embryos readily absorb the toxin, directing it towards body growth and the development of internal organs. Like loons, humans ingest methylmercury by consuming fish and shellfish. This can harm fetuses even if the mother remains relatively unaffected. Yellow-billed loons are an ideal species for long-term monitoring of environmental contaminants because of their long lifespan, position in the food chain, and tendency to return to the same nesting sites each year.
Yellow-billed loons have been selected by the Arctic Network as one of the vital signs in their long-term monitoring program. And what the vital signs are similar to your heartbeat or you're taking your temperature. They give you a sense of how the ecosystem is doing. This baseline information can then be used to get better population assessments over time.
Scientists take advantage of this to track environmental contaminants by analyzing the contents of loon eggs. The eggs provide a signature of contaminants that adults are exposed to when they are off their breeding grounds. To trace contaminant exposure on the breeding grounds, prey fish are collected from lakes where the loons nest. Methylmercury is the most prevalent of the contaminants being examined. However, scientists also check for other heavy metals, persistent organic pollutants, and organochlorine pesticides. Research conducted by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service shows that mercury in egg samples may be approaching levels that could impede reproduction in yellow-billed loons nesting in Alaska's western parklands. Similar results were detected in loon eggs collected from the Arctic coastal plain.
We look in the egg for two reasons. Number one, they're a pretty easy sample to collect. We also look in the egg because for many contaminants out there, their biggest effect is on developing young, developing embryos, and that's what's in an egg.
Fish are an essential food for yellow-billed loons and an important subsistence food for Alaska Native peoples and other subsistence users across the Arctic. By collecting data on contaminants exposure in loons, we can assess the status and health of this rare species and further our understanding of exposure in Arctic peoples. Exposure to contaminants is just one of the challenges yellow-billed loons face. Draining lakes, polluted migratory routes, and low genetic diversity all put the future of the species in question. Consequently, many agencies work together to ensure a future for this iconic species. However, only continued monitoring and conservation will preserve Alaska's wildlife for generations to come.
Text: the challenges yellow-billed loons face may feel overwhelming, but there are simple things you can do locally to help loons globally. Reduce your plastic waste by investing in reusable items such as glass water bottles, metal straws, fabric shopping bags, etc. Recycle plastic and pick up trash, especially fishing line that could entangle and hurt loons. Use alternatives to lead sinkers and lead shot that are toxic and fatal when ingested by loons and other wildlife. Get the word out. A huge thank you to all of our partners who continue to work together to understand the status of yellow-billed loon populations in Alaska. Continued science communication, monitoring, and conservation efforts will contribute to the preservation of yellow-billed loons for generations to come. Yellow-billed loons in a changing Arctic, coping with contaminants. Presented by National Park Service. Names of the production and videography teams. Names of the photography and graphics and animations teams. Names of the songs played. Names of people given special thanks. To learn more, please visit https://www.nps.gov/im/arcn/ybl.htm. Logos for the National Park Service and 13 other organizations.